The horseman is really confused, thinking about what happened just now. It felt as if all the damage caused by his attack was instantly rebounded. He shows Elizabeth in front of him, asking her what she just did to him. Elizabeth ignores him, thinking that even the queen's magic can't harm the clothes Leping created with his own hands. So he deliberately made him attack just now to let him pave the road to his own destruction. Leping's clothes are shining a beautiful blue light. He says to the horseman that everyone says he is the hero. But wait a minute, is he finally going to show his power? Nah, just kidding. In the next moment, Leping comes to his senses. He is really nervous, thinking fortunately it is as he thought. He serves Elizabeth as he provides her delicious food, and she protects him in exchange. Therefore, as long as he is useful to her, she won't let him die. No matter the degree of danger, it's not worth mentioning in front of the Demon Queen. Anyone who wishes to kill Leping is the same as them trying to destroy the Queen's rice bowl. He won't lie, she is Leping's patron. In the same moment, the horseman thinks Elizabeth is truly baffling. He says to Elizabeth that she is so prideful and forgetful, but he only used less than half of his strength just now. When facing a great stallion like him, she could have found joy. But Elizabeth decided to reject his iron hoof. So, the horseman jumps in the air and starts attacking Elizabeth. He says the next one will be a full blow. If Elizabeth has the ability, keep rebounding. And let's see if she succeeds. But before he attacks Elizabeth, someone attacks him, and he falls on the ground. Elizabeth, who is standing there without any fear, says to someone, "Have she finally woken up?" The horseman, laying on the ground, thinks about what's happening with him. He is not looking good. Suddenly something slowly comes out from the sky. It is the golden dragon. After witnessing this moment, the horseman, who can die any minute, realizes this is the dragon's true form. But he is really confused, thinking that the one he just killed, what was that? Suddenly the dragon the horseman just killed starts melting. After melting, the dragon merges into the dragon tail. Elizabeth, who is thinking, asks if he's using his tail as a pet teaser. That's a little trick she often used to play with her before. This is the dragon void realm form. He is the golden dragon queen, and his rank is a 1-star demon king. He is really big and can destroy the whole island with his hand. In the same moment, the horseman, who knows he might die any minute, says it's impossible. He has the power of a demon king. There's no way he can lose. But before he says something more, the dragon uses his finger and kills him. Finally, the horseman is dead. Leping is really surprised. He asks Elizabeth if this is real. Elizabeth, misunderstanding Leping, says that she knows that Leping already discovered it a long time ago. Suddenly, everything turns gold, and the whole island starts disappearing. Elizabeth explains that this space where they are isn't real. It's just an illusion that the dragon created. After everything disappears, everyone is floating. Leping is really surprised after seeing him floating in space. Elizabeth, after seeing Leping like this, says to him, "Even if magic is your weak spot, this wouldn't escape your perception." In the next moment, the dragon says something to Elizabeth in the demon language, and Elizabeth also replies to him. After hearing Elizabeth's words, the dragon starts crying, and tears start falling from his eyes. Suddenly smoke covers the dragon's whole body. In the next moment, he turns into a cute loli. She asks Elizabeth if she is really his master and that she was waiting for Elizabeth to be back. She is Emilia, Elizabeth's pet. Elizabeth says to him, "You have already been promoted to the Demon King level. Are you still that naive? I originally didn't want to come here and wake you up because you're so clingy." But she catches Elizabeth's leg and says Elizabeth has been gone for 500 years without a word. "Do you know how much I missed you?" Emilia starts telling how she met Elizabeth. She was born between heaven and earth, and Elizabeth was the one who found her in the lost secret realm and hatched her with her magical power. They formed a servant and master contract. Elizabeth not only gave her a name, Emilia, but also personally guided her, trained her, and played with her. So, Emilia made a sacred oath that she would definitely protect and serve her master. After she grew up, she became her master's mount, carrying her around to fight against vile creatures. Later, in order to put an end to the constant wars, Elizabeth decided to rule the world. Emilia was happy to see her master achieve world domination one step at a time. But since then, she noticed that Elizabeth's smile has become fainter and fainter. She thinks that Elizabeth is getting stronger, and she is too weak to help her. Unexpectedly, when she went to patrol the world in Elizabeth's stead, Elizabeth went to pull out the holy sword to find the legendary hero, and there has been no news since then. In the conference room, everyone is really sad after Elizabeth goes to search for the hero. Aristotle, minister of mankind, says 10 years have passed, and Her Majesty's reputation can only intimidate everyone and barely keep the situation stable. In fact, there have been undercurrents surging, and the crime rate continues to rise. Mogul, Minister of Orcs, says that's correct. Several great chiefs of the Orc tribe have already announced their separation from the tribe. They can't be suppressed without Her Majesty's aid. Heimerdinger, Minister of Dwarves, says so. They can't just do nothing and be like sitting ducks. Otherwise, the longer the hidden danger is left to brew, the greater the damage it will cause when it breaks out. He suggests everyone go to their respective regions and stabilize the situation while waiting for Her Majesty's return. Twila, Minister of Elves, asks Jim, who has been following Her Majesty the longest, what he thinks. Did Her Majesty really encounter any issues with that legendary hero? Jim, Minister of Demons, replies that's impossible. He has seen Her Majesty's terrifying power. There's no way there is anyone in the world who can threaten that. You can do whatever you want. He will find Her Majesty herself. Lastly, Human Prince says to everyone that he agrees with everyone. Let's all disperse. He will find Her Majesty in his way. In the end, the ministers scattered everything and divided the regions. He was not interested in any of that, so he only took half a glass of wine. Emily returned to the place where Elizabeth first found her. She believed that Elizabeth would come here one day, so she starts waiting for Elizabeth with her favorite wine glass. Time passes. Winter comes. She is still waiting for Elizabeth. Many more years later, she is still waiting for Elizabeth. Her half of the body is covered by the ground. Many more years later, she is still there. Her whole body is covered in the ground. That's how she was waiting for Elizabeth. In the present time, Emily, who is crying, says, "Finally, Elizabeth returned. She was waiting for her." Elizabeth replies, "Isn't that great? It seems like the long wait has taught you to let go of your playfulness and grasp meditation, which is the key step to reaching the Demon King level." Emily doesn't pay any attention to Elizabeth's words. She asks Elizabeth to not leave her behind again, thinking that it turns out that Elizabeth left without a word for 500 years just so she can grasp meditation and reach the Demon King level. Everything Elizabeth has done was for her. Leping interrupts their conversation and asks Elizabeth to stop talking about the past. She has to quickly save little girl Annie. Suddenly, little girl Annie opens her eyes and asks Leping where they are. Leping is really happy after hearing Annie's voice. He asks her if she is all right. Little girl Annie replies that she is okay, but she starts crying, saying the apple brother gave her was crushed. Leping, who is relieved that nothing big happened, says to little girl Annie, "It's not a problem. Don't worry about it." Elizabeth, who misunderstands everything again, thinking that everything is under his control, laid the groundwork when dividing the bananas. Emily, who loves her master after seeing Elizabeth keep staring at Leping, is thinking, why does his master keep staring at that man when she didn't even look at him twice? So she asks Elizabeth, who is he? Elizabeth replies that he is the legendary hero. She stayed at his house while she was away. But Emily is not happy after hearing Elizabeth's words. She's thinking, the legendary hero. It's he who kidnapped Elizabeth. After 500 years, he still wants to steal my master's heart from me. I will settle the old and new grudges with you once and for all. So she calls Leping. He says, "Hello, Emily," saying that his name is Leping, nice to meet her. But Emily is thinking something else. She says, now she can catch up to Elizabeth after reaching the Demon King level. If he joins forces with Elizabeth, she can definitely kill the legendary hero. So she uses his Dragon King's Claw and starts attacking Leping. But in the next moment, Emily's attack reflects just like a horseman. She doesn't know what just happened. On the other side, Leping, who is standing fine, asks for forgiveness that he couldn't react on time. But Emily, in shock, is thinking his attack just now was strong enough to destroy a town, and it bounced off just like that. Leping approaches him and says it's his turn to take the initiative now. Emily is really scared after what happened just now. She's thinking this is not less oppressive than Master. He can actually suppress her with his momentum. She is asking Leping to not come any closer to him. But Leping grabs his hand and helps him to stand up. He says that he is really sorry that he didn't receive his handshake. No wonder he is so calm, Elizabeth. It turns out his dragon girl named Emilia is your friend. Emily doesn't know what Leping is saying. Elizabeth replies that Leping can also say that, but to be more specific, she is his mount. Leping, after hearing Emily is Elizabeth's mount, thinking how can this be possible? In the next moment, Elizabeth snaps his fingers, and suddenly, a purple smoke surrounds everyone. In the next moment, they teleport into Leping's house. Elizabeth says to everyone, that will be all for today. Emil is really happy after seeing Elizabeth's skills, saying, "Master, it's so cool." Because that was something she could only create after stepping into the Demon King realm. Elizabeth absorbed it in an instant with no effort at all. She is truly worthy of being called a monster. Leping is also happy, saying, so it's that easy to return. thinking, as long as he holds onto Elizabeth's thigh tightly, all his troubles will be nothing more than child's play. But little girl Annie is not happy because Leping's house was too far away, and she passed out from the teleportation. Elizabeth asks Leping to please send Annie in first so she can rest. Elizabeth still has some things to tell Emilia. Leping says okay to Elizabeth and gets little girl Annie into the house. After Leping leaves, Emilia asks Elizabeth what she wants to say to her, saying, "Please don't hesitate to give me orders. I can't wait to serve Master." Elizabeth asks Emilia if she has heard about the Demon Realm's Dark Guild. Emilia replies that even if she has not been outside in the past 500 years, she still heard some news of the Demon Realm before she fell asleep. So she explains that it was established by that guy Malfoy, the Prince of Mankind, and asks Elizabeth if she knows him. After hearing this name Malfoy, Elizabeth remembers that there seems to be such a person. Before she came to find the legendary hero, Emilia asks Elizabeth what is it. Do she want to ask him to do something? Is there anything she can't do? If Elizabeth asked her, she can learn. Elizabeth replies that she doesn't want anything. She heard that it's the Dark Guild which was carrying out a great number of killings in the pretext of resurrecting her. That has displeased her. After hearing this, Emilia gets really angry, saying, "What do they mean by resurrecting, Master? Aren't you all well?" She says to Elizabeth, "This is simply disrespectful to you," and asks her, what does she want him to do? Elizabeth gives the order to Emilia, saying she should make them disappear completely from this world. But she must not reveal any information about her or this place. Emilia obeys her command. She will do as Elizabeth says. Elizabeth says to Emilia that she is so obedient. Once things are done, she will set her free. She can do whatever she wants then. Emilia asks Elizabeth to leave everything to her. She is going to go uproot the Dark Guild now. She thinks that Elizabeth will allow him to be free and do whatever she wants. Does this mean she can get into Master's bed every night like back when she was a baby? Emilia is really happy after thinking about this, so she opens his wings and gets into the sky. When she is flying in the sky, suddenly something starts coming towards him. And in the next moment, something hits Emilia and boom, Elizabeth watches everything from the ground. Emilia is really confused, thinking what just happened. Who dared to attack him? To be able to penetrate her skin, it has to be at the level of a demon sovereign at least. And it's an extremely dangerous monster. She must eliminate it as it's a potential threat to Elizabeth. The one who attacked Emilia is none other than our robot dog, who thinks that Emilia is an intruder. So, he activates his target status detected and sees that Emilia is still alive. He increases his defense level to 2 and starts attacking Emilia. Emilia, who is still confused after seeing something coming towards him, uses his Dragon King's wings and stops the robot dog's missile attack. Emilia is really happy, saying to the robot dog, "Choosing me as your opponent. You've made the wrong choice." But in the next moment, her facial expression suddenly changes. She gets really shocked after seeing so many missiles coming towards him. Emilia can't block so many missiles and gets attacked. His whole body gets burned after the attack. But the robot dog doesn't stop there. He finds out that Emilia is alive. So, he increases the defense level to 3 and starts preparing to launch his next attack. But before he launches his attack on Emilia, suddenly he hears a voice saying to him, "Stupid dog." This is Elizabeth's voice. She says to the robot dog that this is her person and asks him to let her go. The robot dog, trembling with fear after hearing Elizabeth's voice, says to her that he has received the command, and the person has been added to the whitelist. Emilia, after getting attacked, is thinking that this place is terrifying, and she has to be alert next time. In the house, Leping is making orange juice for little girl Annie. He asks Sister Annie if she is feeling dizzy, suggesting she try drinking a glass of orange juice as the orange's taste can clear up her mind. She thanks Leping for his hospitality and starts drinking orange juice. After drinking, she feels something from this orange juice. Each fruit pulp contains rich magic power. When it bursts open, it forms a fresh torrent of magic power, opening up the nerve cells in her body and sweeping away the fatigue. She thinks this feeling, it's a highly advanced divine magic. Because of this juice, her mind gets clear. Suddenly, she starts seeing a nun who is saying, "I am you, and you are me," asking little girl Annie to stop suppressing his true self. After that, little girl Annie starts crying, tears falling from his eyes. Leping, who is lying down on his sofa, says, "Indeed, the sofa at home is still so comfortable. Really, going out on an adventure is not for him." Sometime later, Elizabeth enters the room and asks little girl Annie if she has remembered everything. Elizabeth explains that Annie's ancestors once swore an oath to her, that the Jim Jim clan would always stay loyal. If Annie's bloodline has completely awakened, the power of the oath will too. After hearing Elizabeth's words, little girl Annie realizes Elizabeth is none other than the legendary demon queen who ruled the world 5,000 years ago. She asks Elizabeth if she is really the legendary demon queen. Elizabeth replies, yes, and says that she is the ruler of this world, Elizabeth. But little girl Annie is really confused because according to ancient records, Elizabeth died with the legendary hero, Leping. After hearing the story about the hero and demon queen, says, although I'm a little embarrassed to say this, I should be the hero. Little girl Annie is really surprised after hearing what Leping just said. She thought the truth should be like this. Back then, brother Leping and sister Elizabeth fought the ultimate battle for the position of the strongest. Within a month of fighting, they developed feelings for each other. In the end, they gave up fighting for the title of the strongest and fell in love, and started living in seclusion for 500 years from then on. Elizabeth agrees with little girl Annie, saying, well, almost true. But Leping is really angry at Annie, saying, don't talk nonsense, she will offend Elizabeth. Little girl Annie apologizes to Leping for saying this. On the other side, Elizabeth says to Annie, as a descendant of the demon super warrior bloodline, she has actually fallen to such a state. She has really embarrassed the demon clan. Leping is really surprised after finding out that Annie is from the demon clan. But Annie is really sad, she doesn't know what to say. But Elizabeth explains that it should have been 600 years ago, right? A child named Jim awakened his bloodline. His eyes would glow red when he used magic power, and his combat skills were greatly improved. However, as his power grew wildly, he also became extremely violent. Only constant killing could satisfy him. In just a few years, he left Elizabeth's northern territories in chaos. Over 100 elite men under Elizabeth's command were killed by him. The killings grew his ambition, and he actually directly came to Elizabeth's castle in an attempt to challenge her. But unfortunately, Elizabeth quickly defeated him and sealed his violent side. Since then, he has sworn to be loyal to Elizabeth from generation to generation. After hearing this story from Elizabeth, little girl Annie's whole body starts shaking. She says to Elizabeth that she didn't know anything. From her first memory, she has been living in the church's orphanage. The nuns, brothers, and sisters are her family. Elizabeth explains to little girl Annie that she killed everyone in the orphanage when she went berserk. She couldn't accept the reality, so she imagined that she was waiting for the nun to come back. Elizabeth is thinking that she is not there, but with his power, Jim should be able to become the overlord of the tripartite. Why did he step back like this? What about the others? Looks like there is much she doesn't know. But little girl Annie doesn't want to accept the reality. She says that her brother and sister are still alive. They are waiting for her in the orphanage. But Leping is really confused. He asks Elizabeth, didn't they meet her brothers and sisters at the market? Elizabeth says to him never mind and uses his skill transfer door, saying let's just expose the lie and see what her so-called younger siblings are. In the next moment, we can see the transfer door is open. On the other side of the door, we can see a bunch of soft dolls. After seeing these soft dolls, little girl Annie starts calling them brothers and sisters. In the next moment, the dolls transform into Annie's younger siblings. They ask Annie to come play with them, saying, Sister Annie, come back quickly. But before they come, Elizabeth closes the transfer door, and little girl Annie's younger siblings again transform into the soft dolls. Elizabeth asks little girl Annie if she gets it. She used all his magic to sustain the dolls. This is why she always stays at the magician level. In order to get rid of the Dark Apostles, Annie awakened her bloodline to protect her loved ones, then went berserk and killed them. This is what the truth she has been avoiding is. Little girl Annie starts crying. She doesn't want to accept the truth. She says it can't be real. Suddenly, his head hurts. Purple energy starts covering Annie's body. She is going to lose control. But before she does something, Elizabeth knocks him out with his finger. Elizabeth knows Leping wishes to help her, but she must remind Leping that she is only passed out temporarily. If she can't control herself and loses it again, Elizabeth is afraid the whole town will be destroyed. Leping says to Elizabeth that he understands and asks her to let him try to solve this.